This is the ICP Internet Computer 1-year overview reading for the year of 2026. It's currently June 7th, 2024, 8:27 p.m. Eastern Time. ICP at the time of this reading, $11.41, that's USD. The shuffle video for the ICP 2026 1-year reading was created on March 9th, 2024 at 5:46 p.m. That's Eastern Time. That's the video playing for you in the lower left corner. The overall theme and behavior for ICP in 2026, we have a significant move to the upside on a multi-year scale. Super bullish year. It's crossed with the full card indicating, as in its placement here on a 1-year reading, it's telling us that there's an opportunity that'll really stand out on a multi-year scale here taking place. Behavior, and there's usually a lot of price change, but it's an improbable opportunity. Behavior around the highest side, we have a fast sudden move higher taking us into the high side. Behavior around the lowest low, we have a sideways fluctuating rally that precedes a sharp decline. It's either the sideways fluctuating rally out of the low, or more likely it's the sharp decline into the low. Now, I'm going to get into the week-by-week chart behavior, as well as identifying the timing of the highest highs and the lowest lows for the year 2026. I'll also get into the best trades that I see. All of that in just a moment, but before I do that, I want to make sure you're aware. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips, and that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. All right, guys, so it's important to understand that on the broad scale of a 1-year reading, these timeline cards going left to right across the screen, each one represents about 2 weeks of time. But what you need to remember is that not each card's energy will necessarily line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time. And as a result, there are cases where you'll need to give the reading plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room to maintain the accuracy. But even in cases where that does happen, it's a sequence of events that you want to pay closest attention to. The sequence of events will never change, even if we're off a little bit here or there on timing. It happens occasionally. So in January, we have an important support level on a multi-year scale that's highlighted. There's a near overbought crest that we sell off from pretty notably. Yeah, so my sense is that move to the upside ends up becoming an improbable opportunity, a full card opportunity. So it's most likely a move to a positioning to the downside, or a bearish position that we'd look to open. We'll look at that in more detail as we progress. What I'm seeing here is that we have a high at the beginning of the year, and then we've got probably the same high here in May, the same high or higher. So there's an important high side thus far, at least in the earlier part of January, and we sell off from that through multiple support levels. There's significant trade opportunity there around the high that I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. Behavior around the January low, we have bumping along resistance sideways, breaking through, bumping along resistance sideways some more, maybe breaking through again. Overall, pretty bullish behavior out of the low there with that sun card correlation. And then in the later part of January, we have sideways rotation along key support, followed by a big move to the upside, and then sideways rotation at a higher price level. However, it does look like that probably starts out of the low, which it looks like is in the last week of January. The January low will be in the last week of January. I'm advised not to chase a decline there into an important trough. And it looks like right there on the cusp of January, February is where we have a lowest low for the year. I'm advised not to chase the decline into that low. And then in the early part of February, we have a prominent move higher, followed by a full retracement. Same type of behavior that we see near the February low. Another reason why I think it's there on the cusp. Near the February high, there's a trade opportunity. We'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. And we do sideways rotation on a 1-year chart scale. We do sideways rotation along key support. We rise to meet the nearest key resistance and then fall back down, continue rotating sideways along that support with an attempt to establish support in the later part of February. There's also a resistance level in there that we decline from and probably return back to, like on a 1-year chart kind of scale. In the early part of March, we have a significant move higher. This is a cross-reading congruency. This is the 2025 card on the multi-year reading, and it's important because first off, we don't see the 2026 card in the 2026 reading, and the 2024 reading we saw, or in the 2025 reading we saw, on the 2025 reading we have a cross-reading congruency for the 2024 card. There is no appearance of the 2025 card in 2024 reading. What am I getting at? I'm getting at that we're a little bit ahead in the sequence of events, right? The 2020 or a little bit behind the sequence of events. In 2026 we see this bullish move, right? In 2026, but we see a really notable move to the upside here in early March. The March high forms when we decline off of the high down to and through support to meet another support, and then we rotate sideways along that support. There's a prominent trough on a 1-year chart scale at the March low, which is in the later part of March, and a notable decline in the later part of March to revisit a support level on a 1-year chart scale that we recently met once before. So that low at the end of the month of March, we have a rally out of it, increasing with momentum moving forward in time, taking us to a prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale in the early part of April that we decline off of, increasing with momentum moving forward in time, taking us into another important support level at the April low, which appears to be in the later part of April. Yeah, there's a really noticeable move to the upside out of the low of March and into the April high. It'll stand out really on a 1-year chart scale, and then the rally in the later part of April will be out of a trough on a 1-year chart scale. It'll offer an opportunity. We'll rally into a highest high in May, and there'll be trade opportunity there. I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. Notable reversal at the high in May. Another reason why it's most likely a highest high there. Trade opportunity to cash out at that high. And a lot of volatility near the May high with a sharp drop that'll stand out in that period of volatility, taking us to a prominent trough in probably like the end of the 3rd week or the beginning of the 4th week of May at an important range. We'll meet at the low for May. We'll meet an important range on a 1-year chart scale, or maybe even a multi-year scale. And then there's this really big move to the upside out of that low in like the 3rd or 4th week of May, taking us to another peak, not a highest high, but a peak in the early part of June. From that peak, another sharp drop, and then in like the 1st week, maybe the end of the 1st week, and sideways fluctuating decline in the early part of June that precedes a notable rally in the later part of June. The behavior around the June low, we have a significant, so we have a June low on the cusp of May, June, it appears, and we have a new high on like a multi-year or on a 1-year chart scale minimum within close time proximity to the June low. Another reason why that May high is very likely the highest high. And then in the later part of June, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance, and we have another resistance before falling back to somewhere between those two price levels. And it looks like off of the June high, which forms from a diagonal, a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sudden move higher, and then off of that high, we break down through the diagonal trend line. A prominent peak and a prominent trough, both forming in June. And then we have a decline. Looks like that decline from a high. Matter of fact, before we go any further, let's take a look at the 2024 reading and see how we're doing thus far. So we had a high side thus far in February. Looks like I missed this one here. I've gotten much better since I've done even these readings, but it looks like I missed one there. We have a prominent trough though in February, we have a prominent trough in March. It looks like both of those came true. And then we have a highest high here in April and a highest high here in May. And it looks like what we ended up having was one like on the cusp of March, April. Like then we kind of like sort of came back to it, but not exactly. So that second high is a little bit, it's slightly off. We came close. I mean, it's like a secondary high, if you will. And then back into an important trough here that'll stand out in the early part of June. You can see how that's taking place. As far as trades, so the resistance level that we declined from in the beginning of January offered opportunity to open up a short position, close a short position, and then open up a long position when we revisit that resistance. That panned out pretty well. And then at the June low, you would have opened up a long position and closed a long position in the early part of February, which if you did it early enough would have been solid. Otherwise it would have made sense to wait until that high, but it was a highest high thus far is what we were looking for. So you either did it in early February or you did it here. Either way, that worked out pretty well. Sharp drop off of that high right here in April. Sharp universal hexagram decline. We also have a big rally to meet the high, right? This big move here. That's this bull and this victory card, this breakout victory ruin, right? This is all pretty solid, guys. And the overall theme is sideways rotation that ends with a fast sudden move higher, mixed with mixed behavior back and forth through the same price level. And you can see it's basically sideways rotation back and forth through the same price level. This is a really solid reading. If you're wondering, the 2024 ICP reading was created on September 3rd, 2023 at 2:49 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, guys, let's get back into it. So, notable trade opportunity in the end of June. We'll talk about it in the paid version, and then a notable rally here in the early part of July. Significant decline on a 1-year chart scale into the July low. There may even be significant bearish price swings there, but there's a lot of trade opportunity in the earlier part of July. The July high forms when we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance, a previously established, previously tested resistance. We have a failed attempt to break through it, followed by a decline through key support, and there's an important resistance level on a 1-year chart scale highlighted in the later part of July. We likely flatten out around that resistance. Also, a significant or important resistance level in the early part of August highlighted. This is resistance that we failed to break through many times before. It looks like this is the same resistance here at the end of July, so we kind of like move flat near this resistance we failed to break through. And then there's a rally that ends in the later part of August with a big move to the upside that takes place out of sideways rotation. There's a big move to the upside to an August high. This will be one of the bigger moves of the year to the upside to really stand out. Behavior around the August low, a decline through multiple support levels taking us into the low. It's very possible that we have the same low here. It may not be, but it'll be a prominent low that stands out. So go from this big move into a high, and then from that crest, we sell off down to and through support in the early part of September, and then we do a U-shaped reversal below that price level, come back and reuse it as support, and there's a low in the midst of that. The September low forms with 3 crisscrosses back and forth through the same price level, so we probably see the September low twice. The third cross is usually to the upside. Behavior around the September high, we have a decline to and through support, and another support. We rotate sideways along that second support before breaking down through more supports, and then we have multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance in the later part of September. A notable rally right on the cusp of September, October, takes us to a support level that we rotate sideways along in the early part of October. There's another failed attempt to break through resistance at the October high, and this will be significant resistance on a 1-year chart scale. But it's not going to be as disappointing or as surprising that we don't break through it as it was in July. And then there's a lot of price change around the October low. We most likely revisit the October low again in the not too distant future. We have a pretty notable rally in the later part of October. There's also a sharp prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale with a sharp drop that'll stand out off of that peak there in the later part of October. So we have both a significant rally starting and a prominent peak with a sharp drop. So hard to say which one comes first. 3 pokes through the same price level or the same trend line, I should say, in November, followed by a sharp drop off of that third poke. I'm advised to be cautious around the November low, multiple false tops or bottoms, some sort of tricky chart behavior. The November high, which most likely is in like the last week of November, forms with a pop and then a drop, and that drop we decline through multiple support levels, taking us into sideways rotation in the early part of December. That sideways rotation does end with a pretty notable move to the upside that'll stand out on a 1-year chart scale. The December high is within close time proximity to a December low. I'm also advised to be very cautious near that December low. There's an intentional fake out or shakeout of some kind, something intended to make a retail investor do the wrong thing. And the fact that we have two cross-reading congruencies there, one of them is the low card of the multi-year reading, and it's right there on the cusp. There's a possibility that this is a low, like that we're back at lows here at the end of the year. It's possible that we're back at multi-year lows, but that will be after these big moves into highs. This is a really bullish year, where there's at least a really bullish move in here on a multi-year scale. It might not turn out to be fully bullish year because this full card can really be the opposite direction. And we have a lot of full card correspondence here in October as well. Yeah, and it's very possible it's a multi-year or low slow for the multi-year chart there in the later part of December. That decline in the later part of December ends with a fast move higher, and significant trade opportunities there as well. The sneak preview for 2027, there's a decline in there offering opportunity to open up a long position on a multi-year hold. Kind of, that's ICP Internet Computer for 2026. Let me know what you think by hitting that like button. As always, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go, you know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. We're going to get into the best trades momentarily.